Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Good day, everyone. I'm David Pietrangelo, your retro gaming N64 and, well, just all-around goofy guy, here to talk about a particular game that I played a few years ago and have played several times since then, actually. If you have not heard of me, I can easily be found at consolecreatures.com reviewing indie games. Love myself some indie games. Today's game is one of those examples. And of course, on Remember 64, where I am going through the entire N64's library in no particular order, playing what we call the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. Oh yes, we are going through the entire awkward library and generation on this Nintendo console. We are several dozen episodes in, and the fine folks here at the Fun and Games podcast have been on multiple times on the show, and I have also guested on their episode of the N64's retrospective as well. So lots of work we've done together, so I'm really happy to be back. I've done a couple of these side quests episodes before, including Cobalt Core and one of my favorite retro games that I hope to revisit with my son as he gets older, and Mario Paint, so check those out as well. But without further ado, I'm going to talk about a game that I feel like is a little bit under the radar, but also has had a decent amount of fanfare. And I hope that whether it's just me talking about this or whether you've wondered, hey, what is this? Like a fishing game? Really? Is that really what we're doing today? I'm telling you, Dredge is the game we're talking about. Dredge is what I played and what I love, and I hope more people play it. Essentially what Dredge is yes, it is a fishing game. You are controlling a fisherman through these uncharted waters, rough waters, day-night cycle, all these types of things, which we'll get into in just a moment. But what this really is atmosphere. It's thrilling. It's slow, but also has lots going on. If you like any kind of sort of visceral thriller films or TV shows, I think Dredge has that in spades. I wouldn't call it a horror game, but there are horror elements or more thriller, dark elements in it. And I think, it's not here to scare your pants off, but it is something that's going to have some unsettling scenes. I recommend looking up some footage of it and just seeing if that part of it is your vibe. For me, that is the kind of film and TV I absolutely love. I'm more of a thriller and sort of psychological thriller fan than I am of slashers, for example. So before I get into sort of the meat and potatoes or the fish and green beans, I don't know what goes together with fish. Pretty much anything. I love fish. Fish is great. Anyways, before I get into sort of the core mechanics and parts of the game that I really enjoy, just a little bit of a background for me. It's funny how when it comes to a fishing game or even just like fishing mechanics, I would say, I always think of when I grew up, how I didn't really tend to jump on the boat with my brother, my uncle, my cousin, who really liked fishing. We had the privilege of being able to rent a cottage almost every summer, I would say. Lucky enough also with my cousin, who is the same age as me, born in the same year. My brother's just a couple years younger. Really great side of the family that we've pretty much, my cousin's essentially my second brother, my next brother. Got along in a lot of other ways, grew up playing hockey together, all these types of things, but they were so into, okay, after we have dinner, we're going to go out and go fishing for a couple hours. Instead, what I did was I grabbed my Game Boy or my GBA and I played Super Mario Brothers or Pokemon Blue or Mario Golf or, things like that. That's what I gravitated towards. There's just, fishing's fine. It's fine. But I'm really in it for the company, not actually fishing. And, I don't hate it. I don't think it's silly or any of those things. But, anytime a fishing mechanic pops up in a game, and one that is like Dredge, where it's largely based on that, I kind of wince a little bit and go, I don't know if this is going to work. And I think, honestly, sadly, I think fishing in most games just doesn't work for me. And that's one of the things that Dredge actually has improved on, or at least has done something different. That core mechanic, whether it's a Legend of Zelda game or an Animal Crossing or any other kind of game where it's not the main piece of the game, but is an added task that you do to catch fish or items that are in the water. You're normally looking for a nibble. You stand there. I mean, even Hades has this, and I love those two games. You stand there and you wait for a little nibble, and you press X or A or whatever the corresponding button is, and I got a fish. Maybe you have to reel it in a little bit. They've been doing that for decades, honestly. What Dredge does is you just immediately drop your line, and it has this little mini game of a bar that bounces back and forth, and depending on which fish it is, which item you're trying to bring into your boat, what time of day, those types of things all come into play. You press the A or whatever corresponding button it is on the console or the PC that you're playing it on, and it brings the fish or the item up faster and faster, and you're able to successfully bring it into your boat. That's just one mechanic, one reason why I think this game has some cool ideas in it. But like I said, it's not even really just the gameplay. What Dredge does is it brings this nameless and honestly faceless fisherman into this small community or set of communities that are all on this map, this overhead map, and they're just sets of islands essentially, and they're all connected really just by ports. There's no actual large landmass that you have to go around. There's some elements of that, but for the most part, you're going from island to island, and in between, you'll meet other people, or you'll catch certain fish, or you'll have to sort of work your way through these different biomes, really. But the beauty of it is just how the game feels. The art style is very unique. It's a cel-shaded style, but nothing that I've really can quite put my hand on. And what's really lovely about it is it's beautiful during the day and dark and unsettling at night. And it nails that. It's amazing how all you have to do is bring down some lights, get some mood music going, and, up comes the moon, on turns your headlights on the boat, and you're slowly making your way between these giant cliffs or into a caved area or around the corner of this big tree that you haven't seen before. And what's really interesting about Dredge is it's not just about, I can't see, or maybe there's new fish out here. It has this very underlying, unsettling thing where your fisherman that you play as, that you never actually see, it's never embodied in any way, may be hallucinating a little bit. And you're not sure if that is their nerves or if there is something supernatural going on in the world around you. There's elements of that in the story that they hint at, but it's not explicit. But if you stay out at night, you might find something more rewarding, more unique. It just has this really amazing loop. And I'm also just not a massive fan of day-night cycles that force you to make sure you're done by a certain time. Before that sun goes down, you got to do this. And you can choose to do that in Dredge. But if you push the limits a little bit, and you do sort of see what kind of psychological push you can have on your character and the world around you, you get rewarded in really unique ways. Some of it's story, some of it's actual fish or items that you might find. And I really appreciated how, it doesn't necessarily punish you, but you are taking a risk at the same time. There are over 130 fish in just the base game of Dredge, and they have had DLC since then, which take it to new biomes, and I think add another 50 or 60 to that. What's cool is it's not just, hey, I caught a bass or a cod. There are what they call aberrations of each one of the fish that are in this, where, a bass just looks like a regular fish, or a salmon, or something typical that you can think of that you might see, honestly, in a grocery store, but obviously in the waters. They'll have aberrations of these, and these aberrations are things that you'll find in these unique areas, or when you're, boating around in the evening, or in unsettled waters and deeper waters, for example. And these things can get really creepy and crazy. It's something out of an old school 40s or 50s, noir movie or something. Sometimes the fish have multiple heads. Sometimes their tail is split into pieces. Sometimes they have bulging eyeballs. Other times a skeleton is on the outside of the fish. They're glowing colors. One of the ones that I wrote down as a note that I always wanted to remember was called, I believe it's called Medusa Octopus, or Octopus Medusa, or some version of those two words. And you look at it and it's got this really strange shape to it and all these crazy colors. And under the description, it says this has 8 snapping mouths on each of its tentacle. Those are the types of things you get to deal with. There's RPG elements in Dredge as well, which are really great, where you can upgrade your boat, make sure you can see better at night or have more space, or, make sure that if you do run into some, unforeseen circumstances where you run into a rock or some sort of debris, that's less likely to leak or break, things like that. And, I could go on and on about what this game offers, but really playing through this twice, owning it both on Switch and on Steam, so I could play it on Steam Deck on the go. I just really think that the tone is what really goes a long way in this. And it's not about a really deep emotional story. Yes, it is a very interesting and very sort of unique noir type of approach to an exploration and fishing game. But there's a lot of cool characters that have a mystery behind them that you kind of have to have your own view of what they're really trying to say and what the real point is here. And you kind of embody yourself into this fisherman then that you never actually see. And when the story wraps up, it left me wanting more. So I was delighted that there was a DLC that came out just over a year after its release. I believe it was late 2024. And it was everything I would have wanted out of it. It's more Dredge. It's more interesting characters, more interesting story, a new biome. If you find this anywhere, I highly recommend checking it out. If anything doesn't quite sell you on what I said, give it a quick watch on YouTube, on Twitch, things like that, and just see if the sort of vibe of it, because the game doesn't move fast, but it does allow you to kind of move at your own pace. There's no real rush to things, and I also appreciate that about it. And it's just... Dredge is still one of my favorite games from the last 5 years, from the last decade. It's up there, and I'm talking about it on and on and on here for over 10 minutes, and I kind of just want to go play it again. So you can check out my writing at consolecreatures.com, where I review games like Dredge. More recently, I also played games like Big Hops, which I know our friends here at Funny Games also spoke about, and spoke to one of the game's creators, which is awesome. So listen to that as well. I also record my episodes every 2 weeks. We have an episode on Remember 64, where we are picking a new game, sometimes 2 games at once, to play from the N64. And we talked about... in late 2025, we talked about the favorite games that we covered from the past year out of the 30 or so that we played. And to kick off the year, we played, for example, Animal Forest, which was the Japan-only release of the very first Animal Crossing on the N64. It is mostly the version that you find on GameCube, but it was really cool to experience it on the N64 and just see where this massive franchise started. And honestly, it's great. So Remember 64 on your podcast feeds on YouTube. We have video versions all the time as well. And Remember 64 show all across social media. Thank you once again for having me, everyone. And as always, happy gaming.
Do you have a gaming subscription service like Xbox Game Pass or a crazy backlog and don't know what to play next? Well, 1H1D might be for you. Join me, Chris, and my college buddy Tom as we play a random game or a requested game for an hour and decide if it's worth playing past that hour. We go over the good, the bad, and maybe some little tidbits about the development you might not have known. Got 30 minutes? Give us a try, and if you like it, throw us a 5-star review. Try something new. You never know what might be your next favorite game.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.